Good evening, Team Gunmetal. Today we are going to do some meat testing on some various different types of knives. We're going to be using the Spyderco Civilian. We're going to be using the Extrema Ratio Nightmare Karambit. We're going to be using the 511 Taranit Karambit. The new Spyderco Karahawk Karambit. Definitely going to be using that. And last but not least, we're going to be using the smaller version, a smaller version of the Civilian called the Matriarch. So we're going to see how all these different ones perform on a piece of meat. I've got the Mistress of Metal holding the camera for me, but she is sick, so she will not be doing much speaking. So here we go. First cut. Let's see what happens. Okay. Just barely nicked it. And the depth of that cut is easily an inch deep. It's easily an inch deep. Just by coming straight down and nicking it, I was able to cut in an inch. Okay? You can also see here on the blade, if you look at the angle in the light, you can see where it went into. There's a little line right there. If you look at it and kind of angle it in the light there, you'll see it. So let's move on to the next one. That was more of a hawkbill blade. The Spyderco Civilian, kind of a unique S-shaped hawkbill type blade, karambit blade. This one is obviously more of a Tanto blade, so we'll see what this thing does. Didn't get a real deep hit on that one, but just from barely tapping it, can see it went in, easily went in there about 3/4 of an inch, maybe even deeper depending on how far back you look. But I mean, you guys saw, I just barely nicked it, right? So you can see there, you know, it went in almost, because there's your inch mark right there. It went in almost an inch. If you put the meat back together, you know, about 3/4 of an inch, give or take. And of course, you can see some meat on the actual blade itself. One thing I think that made a big difference on this one cutting was this point on the Tanto itself. That little point digs in as it cuts, and it helps it carry through, as well as the tip being pointed right there. You've got your point of the normal Tanto there, and this little tiny, like, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch sharp edge here on top too. That's actually sharp. So you've got 1 edge, 2 edge, and then 3 edge. I didn't even get into using any of the serrations or the actual belly of the blade here. It just cut in right at this part right here. You can see where it's wet. It cut in on this part here. Interesting. All right. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to do the 511 Karambit. See how this one does. Now, keep in mind, I am only doing overhand strikes just to get an actual, you know, metric for how these perform, okay? So here we go with the 511. Well, it looks like I almost took off the piece of meat that I hit with the Civilian. So, looks like I went in, what'd you say, about 3/4 of an inch there? Looks like about 3/4 of an inch right there. Oh, got some meat on the blade there. And you can also see here on the blade where the blade went into right there. So, from here forward, there's gunk on the blade. Why don't we give this one another shot, see what happens. Just a nice, simple, easy cut right through here. let's see, stick our ruler in there. Yep, about 3/4 of an inch. Again, repeatable. About 3/4 of an inch that it went in. And again, it went in to about the same depth right there. So something to look at there with the 511. Also, I want to mention that each one of these blades was washed thoroughly with soap and water beforehand, because we're actually going to take this meat and eat it afterwards. The Mistress of Metal was very strict about me washing the blades before I use them to cut, right? She's nodding her head. Alright, so let's see about cutting this one here. I'm not sure how I want to cut this. Let's just go straight down, see if I can get a good, maybe flip it over to this side, see if I can get a good cut on here. Alright. Actually, let me take this. See if I can twist this around. This way. Alright, here we go. Much better. Alright, so we're going to come straight down and see what we got. Here we go. Whoa. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see just how deep the Spyderco Karambit went in. Looks like it went about an inch into the meat. Now, let's actually, this is one of our longest, biggest cuts we've done yet. Look at this. Look at that. That is a wicked size cut, man. And you got to keep in mind, I'm only winding up maybe, I don't know, 12 to 15 inches from the target. I'm just coming down like a normal cut would be, not even at full power. And it's doing, you know, this level of damage, guys. It went in about an inch. There's our mark right there. When you turn it, it went in about an inch. Down here, went in a little more than an inch. And up top, up here, it went in about an inch as well. So with one easy, effortless cut, the Spyderco Karambit, the new one, the Karahawk, went in, I would say, more than an inch, give or take, you know, but we'll just call it an inch to make it a little more easy to work with. So that's the new Spyderco Karahawk. Still got meat on the blade. Alright, last one is going to be one more Spyderco. Now, I don't get paid by Spyderco to do this, but I do like to test the blades that I carry each day, and I can tell you that I do carry each one of these each day. Not all at the same time, though, because that's crazy. Alright, last one. Here we go with the Spyderco Matriarch. Now, this one is about, what do we got here? About 3.5 inches a blade, whereas the Civilian is more like 4 1/4 inch. So this one has the same kind of S curve to the blade, but not as long of a tip. So let's see what this one does. Alright, here we go. Oh, wow. Okay, so here we are again. Nice, big, insanely deep cut. This one is our deepest cut yet. If you look here, you can see it almost went to an inch and a half. It's just shy of an inch and a half. Let's get down into here. We're still at about an inch. About an inch and a quarter. And again, about an inch. So you can also see here on the blade, sorry about the focus there, I'm not perfect. You can see where it stopped. It stopped on the blade right there. Let me get a little bit. Well, anyways, it stopped on the blade right about there and made its wet mark right across there. So one of the things that you can look at with these when they come in and they cut is that's, the wetness is actually going to be created from where the actual cut has taken place. So you can see there, that's where the wetness is all across there, because that's the angle that I cut down at. And you can see the angle of the meat across the blade right there. And there's still some meat on the blade. Anyways, well guys, I hope this was an informative and interesting video for you guys. This is one of those things that I think everyone who carries a knife should do. Everyone who carries a knife should test it. They should really look at what their blades can do. And they should take a look at all the different various knives that they have and see what they're capable of. I think it's important to get that metric so you know what each one can do. This one went in an inch or a little bit less. This one was capable of going in an inch and a half. This one went in, a little less than an inch. This one just went in by the tip, but was able to go in about 3/4 of an inch. And this one, again, the Civilian, just like the Matriarch, was able to go in a considerable depth, inch and a half again, if you measure by the actual blade itself. Anyways, that's going to be the video, guys. Thank you for joining us, and be with us next time as we go deeper inside the Gunmetal Armory. Don't forget to subscribe and visit my Patreon. Good night.